never forget. Through all the pain and the sweat, if you're not done with me yet, I got to keep pressing, got to keep pressing on. You know I never forget that you're not done with me yet. And all the tears that I let, I got to keep pressing, got to keep pressing.
Now why don't?
Hello, grace to you. Thank you for being with us on today. We want to open up tonight by thanking everybody that have been sharing our videos, listening to our videos, those who have sown seeds or words of encouragement. We want to thank you at this time. We're excited about what we're going to have on tonight. We want to take a little time to share with you on tonight on the topic of leadership. And I'm going to let Corey take it from here on out so he can introduce our guest tonight.
Hey, man, we have a special guest. All of our guests are special, but tonight we have Mr. Richard Helland. He is author of If You Lead, People Will Follow. He's ex-military, U.S. Army. He studied leadership and development at the University of Phoenix, and he is being mentored by John Maxwell. That's one of his mentors. And I just wanted to bring him on here tonight so I could be able to introduce y'all to introduce him to all of those that support us, because we truly believe in what it is that God has placed on the inside of him, and we believe that it is a blessing to the body of Christ. How you doing, Mr. Helland?
Man, I am doing awesome. How you guys doing, man? Thank you guys so much.
Great.
I really appreciate what you're doing.
Hey, we're blessed to be a blessing. I wanted to, me and you got to talk the other day, and you were sharing some things with me, and I was just thinking to myself, we have to share this with the people. And I just want you to speak a little bit on leadership in the home and the importance of a father.
Yeah, man, you kind of talked about this a couple of days ago.
Right.
There are about 4 or 5 topics, or 4 or 5 things that we need to learn that are not taught in school. And so when you think about it, if you ask an average person what leadership is, everybody would give you a different definition. So anytime I do a workshop or a seminar, whether it be a church setting or a business setting, I ask the people in the audience, I said, where are my leaders? And the only people that raise their hand are the people with titles. So in our culture, we consider leadership someone with a title. And that's not necessarily true. Right? So leadership by definition is influence. Watch this definition. It's powerful, right? Influence is mind and your ability to affect someone's character, behavior, and or their development without your title.
That's right.
In other words, I encourage you to go see a movie. It has nothing to do with my title position, but my character has impressed you to a certain degree. And so when I ask you to do something or I mention something, you do it based upon my character, not based upon my title or my position. And so that's the first thing that the first misconception that we have when it comes to leadership in the marketplace or in the church. It has nothing to do with title. It's actually influence. And sometimes in most organizations, the person with the most influence may not be the pastor. It may not be the person that's running the company. It could be someone else with influence. So that's the first misconception when we come to leadership. Now, the second thing when it comes to leadership in the home is this. When we think about leadership, like I mentioned before, it's not something that we normally teach in school. So the first question I ask men is, where did you learn leadership from?
Wow, that's good.
Right? Who's your model? Right? And in many cases, most of us do not have positive models of leadership. Right. So in other words, if we don't have a positive role model or a roadmap of what leadership really is, we just kind of wing it. So I'm going to ask my sister this question. So if I was asking the average woman, when you start looking for a man, let's exclude the fact that you're looking for a man that's God-fearing. Let's say that that's automatic. You're looking for a guy that's God-fearing. I asked probably 100 women this question. Out of all the things you're looking for in a man, what does leadership bring? And I've yet to run into one woman that asked me or that told me that leadership was important. Now, I'm going to tell you why that's so important when you're looking for a mate or in a household. Leadership has 3 major components: purpose, direction, and progress. So now I'm going to back up just a little bit. So when it comes to women and men, we all have basic needs. Don't let me get the last point. I'm going to come back to that point. with purpose, direction, and progress. When it comes to women and men, women have basic needs and men have basic needs. Watch this. And if I'm not conscious of that as a man or a woman, I could be violating someone unconsciously. Does that make sense? So watch this. A man's basic need is respect. The minute you curse him out, the minute you dog him out, you've lost him as a man. His number one need is respect. His second need is sex. His third need is friendship. And his fourth need is support. Those are 4 basic needs for men. Watch this. With women, women also have 4 basic needs. They also need the same thing that men need, but their needs are a little bit different for their primary needs. Watch this. A woman's number one need is security. In other words, she needs to know that she's number one and she's the only one. Number one. Number 2, she needs to know that the bills are paid for, everything is taken care of. A woman needs security. A woman's second need is open and honest communication. Her third need is non-sexual affection. Watch this. And her fourth need is leadership. A woman needs leadership. That's why it's so important in the home. So the woman needs leadership if you're going to lead, and the children need leadership. So if I am going to lead in the home as a man, number 1 is, first of all, what's my leadership model? And number 2, what is it? And what does it consist of? Well, it consists of 3 different things: purpose, direction, progress. So now, if I am married, what is my purpose? Now, if you ask the average couple that, they'll both give you 2 different answers, and they're going to make it up on the spot because neither one have a collective purpose that they're actually striving for. So let me give you an example. So when you look at a football team, let's say it don't matter what team you pick, what is their purpose?
To win the game.
Not only to win the game, but to also win a Super Bowl.
Right.
So the teams that are most successful at that are the teams where everybody on the team shares the exact same purpose. If you got people on the team that don't have the exact same purpose, you have chaos on the team. But when everybody on the team shares the exact same purpose, the team has an opportunity each year to make it to the playoffs and possibility to the Super Bowl. It's the exact same thing when we're married. What is our purpose as a unit, and what is our goal that we are trying to accomplish collectively? Now, for me and my wife, our collective purpose is this: to have a marriage worthy of emulation, always looking to our Heavenly Father for who we are fully conscious as to where our guidance will come from. That is our collective purpose as a unit. So everything we do is inclusive of that united purpose. Does this make sense?
Yeah.
Because, the Bible says this: be you not, I'm going to paraphrase it, be you not unconscious of the will of God. In other words, so purpose is inclusive in everything that we do. Right. We need to be conscious of what our purpose is as a unit. So now, if I want my wife to follow me, watch this. If I want my children to follow me, why would they follow me if I don't have a unified purpose? Why would they follow me if I don't have a purpose? They're not going to follow me. So the example I give is this: when I do workshop, I'm from Mississippi, and I asked everybody in the workshop, say I'm going home to Mississippi in about 2 weeks. I'm going to spend about a week there. How many people in the workshop will go with me to Mississippi and spend about 2 weeks there? And I can't get anybody to raise a hand that want to travel to Mississippi and spend a week or so with me in Mississippi, because nothing's in Mississippi. Then I rephrase the question. I say, my aunt just died. She's worth about $800 million. She left me $120 million. And everybody that travels with me to Mississippi is going to get $150,000. How many people want to go to Mississippi with that? Invariably, everybody raised their hand. I said, what's the difference in the first scenario and the second scenario? Everybody collectively says, now we know why. See, here's the issue when it comes to leadership in the church or in a marriage or parenting. It doesn't matter. Everybody knows what we do. I'm married. I have children. But the power is knowing why. And that's what's missing. We have to know why, or have a collective purpose that both people in the household are actually striving for. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So now, if that's my purpose, what am I going to put together in my household to help me carry out that purpose? So me and my wife agreed to 5 things: spiritual agreement, emotional agreement, financial agreement, sexual agreement, parental agreement. If we can unify on those 5 things, everything else in our marriage that we face will be simple. So that's going to be the direction that we go to carry out our purpose. We're going to be unified in those 5 areas. And then every now and then we're going to sit down and we're going to ask each other. This is so powerful. Watch this. Baby, how am I doing right now as your husband? How well are we doing?
Mm-hmm.
I want to know what it's like to be on the other side of me.
Mm-hmm.
And how well am I doing leading a family?
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
I want to know her feedback. So leadership consists of purpose, direction, progress. That's inclusive of everything within the marriage. What is the purpose of you raising your kids? So when I look at my children, my purpose for my kids is to raise emotionally and emotionally healthy and physically healthy children. Watch this. Who can one day grow up, leave the nest, and go out into the marketplace and be the difference. So in our household, character is emphasized. That's our purpose for raising our kids. They understand that. My wife understands that. And I understand. We're all on the same sheet of music when it comes to raising our kids. So leadership is inclusive in everything that we do. When it comes to our finances, what is the purpose of our finances? So our finances are united. So I told my wife when we first got together, let's do this. Let's live off of one income. My wife's a teacher. And my income is, I'm a consultant. I do a lot of different things. So my income is more sporadic. So let's live off your income, and let's take my income and invest. So we've only been married 10 years. It'll be 10 years in January. Watch this. Since our money has a purpose, since our marriage has a purpose, in less than 10 years of marriage, we live in a very nice house, we drive very nice cars, and we have no debt. Zero debt. But everything has to have purpose. So in every aspect of our marriage, when it comes to our kids, what is our purpose? What is our direction? How well are we doing? If those 3 things are absent, watch this. It's not leadership, it's management. Those are 2 different things. Management means I'm taking what God has given me and I'm just maintaining it. Leadership means I'm going to take what God's given me and I'm going to increase it.
That's good.
Those are different things. So now, when you read the 23rd chapter of Matthew, one of my favorite chapters, the chapter called the talents, a portion that called the talents.
Mm-hmm.
The master gives one man 5 talents. He gives another man 2 talents, and he gives another man 1 talent. Then the Bible says that the master waits a while. Now, we don't know how long it is, but let's say he waited a year. Then he came back. The man that had 5 talents increased his talents to 10. The man that had 2 talents increased his talent to 4. Watch this. But the man that had 1 talent hid his talent in the sand. Now, when the master came back, he praised the man that had 5 talents, who transformed turned his talents into 10 talents. He praised that man. He said, "You're good and you're faithful servant." The man that had 2 talents, he turned his talents to 4 talents. He also praised that man. So the point in the first part of my story is this: it don't matter how many talents you have, it's what you do with it.
Mm-hmm.
So what, you got 1 talent, 5 talents, 10 talents? It doesn't matter. What are you doing with the talents? Then the man that had 1 talent, watch this, took his talent and hid his talent in the sand. Now I'm going to take this a little bit further. Your body is actually made out of the dust of the earth.
Right.
So you can take a talent that God has given you and you can hide it in the sand. But it wasn't your talent in the first place. So God gave you the talent so that you would reproduce or increase the talent. He didn't give you the talent so the talent could maintain the way that it was. That's management. He gave you the talent so that you could take the talent and increase the talent. Now, when I get ready to take my last breath, I want my wife, I want my children, my friends to be able to say this: because you've been invested in my life, and because you've been in my life is better than what it was and what it would have been without you. I want them to be able to say that I am a better son, I am a better wife, I'm a better this, because you have invested in me. Why is that? Because I'm going to take what God has given me and I am going to increase. In other words, I want it to progress, because if it's not progress, it's management and it's not leadership. And everything that God gives us, He wanted to progress, whether it be my marriage ministry, whether it be my church, whether it be my parenting skills, whether it be no matter what it is, He don't want to give us anything. And then we present it back to Him, the exact thing that He gave it to us.
Wow.
That was a whole lot in there. I'm so sorry about all that.
No. You're blessing us. And you know, and what I get out of what you're saying is that we have to be intentional.
You have to be intentional.
We have to be intentional. But you know, I remember a while ago, I was watching Barry Sanders, and his son had just committed to the University of Stanford. And the person that was interviewing him asked him, how do you think your son is going to do in college? He says, he said, we gave him a good foundation, so he's going to be okay. And, it's like a light bulb came on in my mind. A lot of times we try to build the whole house when really we should, like you say, get about 4 or 5 things that we hold dearly. And then when we get those 4 or 5 things, we just work on the foundation of the child, and everything else has no choice but to grow into a healthy manner. But, I get exactly what you're saying. We have to be intentional in our marriage. We have to be intentional in every area of our life, so that therefore we can give God the return that he desires to have out of that in which he entrusted to us. So let me ask you this. One thing that I know about leadership is that the first person that you must lead is yourself. Mm-hmm. Now, I understand that you can't give people what you don't have. So I'd like for you to speak a little bit about investing into yourself, that you could be the best leader for your family. Because a lot of times we get in the situation, having children, getting married, before we even start working on investing in us to be the best leaders that we can be. So speak a little bit about the first person that you lead, which is yourself.
I love that, man. That's really a good segue to what we're talking about. One thing I love about God is that God has a way where he can present stuff to us. People always want to use the Bible to justify things. And that's great. But God has a way, because he created everything in creation. So we can use stuff that God created. And I don't even need a Bible to talk to people. So watch this. You have what we call in biology, you have what we call living organisms and non-living organisms. In order for something to be classified as a living organism, it must have about 4 or 5 different character traits. Number 1, it must have a shape and form. So I have a shape and form. Number 2, it must have the ability to reproduce. In other words, I have the ability to bring forth offspring. Number 3, it must have the ability to adapt to its environment. These are all qualities of something that is a living organism. And watch this. The 4th quality of a living organism, in order for you to know that it's a living organism, it must grow.
Wow.
Now watch this. Anything that's not growing is already dead.
Ooh.
Your marriage. See, it died before you divorced, right? Anything that's not growing is already dead. So as men or leaders, period, we have to find ourselves in a perpetual state of growth. The average person spending between 5 and 8 hours a day on Instagram and Facebook. The average person that graduates high school only reads 1 book in their lifetime. Only about 32% of people that graduate high school read 1 book after high school. Only about 42% of college graduates read a book after college. So we don't find ourselves in a perpetual state of growth, and we can't figure out why we're having all these issues in our life. Well, you're having all these issues in your life because you are not growing. You're not evolving. You are managing yourself, but you are not leading you. So the reason the question you asked is so important. If you are not effective at leading you, you will not be effective at leading your spouse or your children. So the example I give, my cousin called me one day. He said, "Cuz, you're always talking about this leadership stuff, and I am having a hard time leading my family. I can't get my children to comply. I can't get my wife to follow me. I am having a hard time leading my family. What advice can you give me?" And I said, "Well, do you want the truth or do you want me to sugarcoat?" He said, "No, cuz, I want the truth." I said, "Well, you're having a hard time leading your family because your wife knows that you're not faithful. Your children know that you're not faithful. Your wife knows that you're not honest. Your children know that you're not honest. So you can't tell people to do something that you're not doing yourself, so they will not follow you." So it's imperative that as leaders in the household, that we learn first how to lead so that we can be an example for those that we're leading. So I teach 3 points when it comes to self-leadership, right? The first point that I teach is, number 1, it says this: I will not lie to myself, even if the truth makes me look or makes me feel bad about myself. Now that's tough. That takes some self-examination. And that one of the biggest issues that we have within our culture is this: everybody's good at telling me what's wrong with someone else, but nobody's good at telling me what's wrong with them. And I ask you to do this. I've done it for the last probably 10 years. And I used to keep a $100 bill in my wallet. And somebody would be talking to me about their divorce. And I would always ask, what role did you play in the divorce? And 99.9% of the time, they didn't play no role in the divorce. The fault was always on the other person. Why is that? Because everybody can look out the window and tell me what's wrong with me, but can you look in the mirror and tell me what's wrong with you? And so the first step to being effective at self-leadership is being able to look in the mirror and say to myself, I will not lie to myself, even when the truth makes me feel bad about myself. An example I gave in the book is our daughter's special needs, and sometimes she can be challenging. There was a period of time where I wasn't treating her the way that I should be treating her. And my wife called me to the car. And my first thought was this: I take her to a doctor's appointment, I fix her lunch, I take her here. I started thinking about all the things that I do for her. How can you call yourself chastising me because you don't think I'm treating her the way that she deserves to be treated? And the moment you begin to think while someone else is speaking, that means you're not listening. Mm-hmm. And if you give up, watch this is so powerful. This is kind of off the beaten path. Anytime your spouse, you want to end the argument really quick, this is how you do it. Anytime your spouse comes to you with something that's a concern, watch this. Own it first, justify, or own it first, explain second. Own it first, explain second. Because nobody's listening to you till you own it. What we do the opposite in most cases. We want to justify why we did what we did, and then at some point we apologize. No, because if you're not careful, you will justify and excuse your actions. So although I wanted to justify my actions, I did. I had to own that. Now I want you to consider this. You think it's not a good feeling looking in the mirror saying to yourself that I am not being the best father I should be to my daughter. That's not a good feeling. But you can't correct what you're not willing to confront. So I had to confront the fact that I was not being a good father. But that's the first step in self-leadership. Now, we mentioned earlier, leadership is influence. The minute as a leader, you don't accept responsibility for your actions, you lose influence. You lose influence with your wife, and you lose influence with your children. If you happen to be a pastor, you lose influence with your people that are following you. If you happen to run an organization, you lose influence with them if you will not accept responsibility for your actions. So that's the first step of self-leadership. Number 2 is, watch this, this is so powerful. Number 2 says this: I will lead myself based upon what I value most, not what I want now. So that means as a leader, I have to develop values. So the example I give in the book, me and my wife's at a restaurant here locally in Pflugerville, and I have this space where people feel like they just come talk to me even though they don't know me. And so this young lady approached me, and for whatever reason, we was going to order our food, she started telling me about her boyfriend. She was telling me how her boyfriend was using her, and first one thing and another. And I said, ma'am, are you just venting, or would you like some advice? Now, she don't know me from Adam. Mm-hmm. And she said, no, I want some advice. I said, what are your values? And she looked at me despondent. And she goes, no one has ever asked me. Well, if you don't have values, you will succumb to someone else's values. Mm-hmm. If you do not have values, you will succumb to someone else's values. And what will happen is this: you make an excuse for someone else's behavior. Oh, he hit me today, but he just had a bad day. He had a long day at work, and his boss was tripping. And so he came home and he put his hands on, but, that's not going to happen again. You make an excuse for their behavior. Oh, yeah, I caught him cheating. But, we had an argument. You'll make an excuse for their behavior if you do not have values. So the example that I give in the book is this. I had a guy here in Austin who was an engineer. He had an offer in Florida that doubled his current salary. They gave him stock options. He had an investment in the company. It was everything he ever dreamed of. But here's the problem. His daughters were in high school. He would have had to uproot his family from Austin, Texas to move to Florida, and they would not have had the opportunity to graduate with their friends, and his wife would not have been able to retire from her job. So although the job was paying him way more money than he was making, it was his dream job. He always wanted to live in Florida. He turned the job down. Why? He valued what he would lose with his family more so than what he would gain with the new position. But if you don't have values, you succumb to someone else's values. And here's what people don't realize. Values are guiding principles that are non-compromising. So when you find yourself at an impasse, those things go through your value system. If it does not fit your value system, what you say is no to. So the guy turned down a lucrative offer because what he would lose at home was more important than what he would gain in his new position. So if you ask the average person, what are your values? They couldn't tell you. And so the example I give is me and my wife was dating. We've been dating about 8 months. And at this point, I know who I am and I know whose I am. And now, after 8 months of dating, my wife had just got out of a 20-year marriage. And I shared with my wife one day on the phone. We was talking and said, I think you just kind of used me. I think I'm just a rebound guy. And man, she got hot. Now, my wife is from New York. And if you know anything about New Yorkers, man, they can have a temper.
Yeah,
and
they
man,
can be pretty tough.
My wife used some words that I had never heard her use before. And I'm on my cell phone talking to her. And I just hung the phone up. And within 2 minutes, she called me back. And she said, why did you hang the phone up in my face? And I said, do you like me? She said, yes. I said, don't ever talk to me that way again. Or if you feel like you need to, lose my phone. Why could I say that? Watch this. One of my values is respect. And when it goes through that filter, if it disrespects one of my values, then I got to take a different stance on that. But watch this. If you don't have that as a value system, this is what you say. She's had a bad day. She's going through the divorce. She had a hard time. You make an excuse for their behavior. You make a bed for their behavior if you don't have a value system. And that was almost 11, 12 years ago. We've never had that issue again. Why? Because when it happened, we confronted it. And we dealt with it and we nipped it in the bud. We didn't let it go on, right? Because if you don't stop it at that point, it's going to perpetuate itself. It don't stop because you wanted to stop. It's going to perpetuate itself if you don't say anything. But when you know who you are, who is you are, and you have a value system, you just don't take certain things like that, right? I had another incident while I was dating a girl before I got married, and we were just talking, and she just used a bunch of explicits. Well, nothing's wrong with you using that type of language. I just don't want to date somebody that uses the type of language. If you talk like that to me on our first date, you probably cuss me out. So I stopped dating. I dated another girl for one day. We went out on a date, and for 45 minutes, she talked about her ex-husband. I said, how long have you been divorced? She said, 10 years. I never called her again. Why? Because I don't want to date someone that's bitter. I want to date someone that's better.
Oh, wow.
Point is this. You have to have a value system, and values are things that are non-compromising. You do not compromise on your values. So that's the second point in being effective at self-leadership. Then the last point is this. No one leads themselves by themselves. This is what I think really hurts the ministry. Because I work with the ministry and I talk to a lot of pastors. And I want to talk to one pastor that had a mentor outside of the church that he spoke to on a regular basis that was able to speak truth to power.
That's good. That's good.
That was able to speak truth to power. That's why they don't grow. Because if you're not careful as a leader, what will happen is as you begin to build your ministry or your business, you will surround yourself with people that are going to say yes sir, no sir, and they're not going to challenge you. Wow.
Yes, man. There's no accountability there.
So if you look at Joe Biden, when they was running for the Democratic nomination, Kamala Harris was extremely tough with him during the debates. She was very critical of Joe Biden about some of his policies during the debate. Now you have to ask yourself, if she was critical of him during the debates, why in the world would you make her your VP? Well, see, a strong leader knows that he needs stronger people around him that's going to be able to speak truth to power, that's going to hold him accountable. And based upon that, he's going to grow. So watch this. If I decide to start a church, number one, I would not start a church without some diversity. And number two, I would not start a church unless the person that's up under me is better than me. In other words, watch this. If I am preaching and I'm not going to be at church one Sunday, I want to know the person that comes behind me is not less than me. It's better than me.
That's wow. That's good.
It's better than me. That's why when you go to most religious organizations, when people find out the pastor's not going to be there, there's about a 30% drop off in attendance. Why? Because the person up under me is not nearly as effective. No, I need the person up under me to be more effective. So if something happened to me, the church is not hindered. It goes on in spite of me, not because of me. But you have to be strong as a leader to do that. So every leader, whether it be a pastor or a parent, needs mentors. So number 3 says, I will not lead myself by myself. So I have about 30 mentors. Some of them I meet in person, some of them are books. But I always have people feeding me who can speak truth to power, who is going to hold me accountable. And the average person does not have that. So what I tell people is this: every person needs what I call a board of directors. Now, every company, every church has a board of directors, but as a person, you can also have a board of directors. Now, board of directors are people or a person whose morals, values, ethics, marriage, parenting is something you like to emulate. So every now and then you take this person out to lunch. Every now and then you call this person on the phone, and they have no idea they're on your board because you don't have to tell them they're on your board. But they have some insight in some areas that you will want to grow in, and you can glean from that and grow from that. But everybody needs a board of directors, and you'll be amazed at how many people do not have mentors, especially when it comes to the ministry. That's one of the reasons they don't grow. You have to have people that's going to be able to speak truth to power, that's going to help you get to the next level. If you don't do that, you minimize your growth. So those are three things that we have to master, have to be conscious of if we want to be effective at self-leadership. So when I master that, it makes it easier for someone else to follow me because they see that they see that I'm a person that leads myself well. So if you don't lead yourself well, people are going to follow you, but they're going to follow you because they have to and not because they want to. But when you lead yourself well, people follow you because they want to and not because they have to follow. So my children, they follow me. They're grown. They don't follow me because they have to, because they're grown. But they follow me because they want to. Why? Because they see that I lead myself well. My son called me a couple of days ago. He was bragging about his dad to some of his friends. And he was like, man, my dad has written 3 books. He said, if you go to his Facebook page, everything on his Facebook page is positive. He was just bragging to his friends about his dad. And I just begged to start crying. But I'm in a position with him that although he's 26 years of age, I still can influence him. So you never stop parenting even after your kids are grown. But the moment you stop leading yourself well, it minimizes your influence.
That's good.
That you have with your children.
That's good.
That's a long explanation.
No, that's good stuff. That's what we brought you on here so that you can share. How can people get in contact with you? What type of services do you offer?
Well, we teach leadership development. We teach leadership development in marriage. So we show people what leadership looks like within marriage. So leadership development in marriage, leadership development sales, and we do keynote speaking. And so those are the 4 pillars of our business: leadership development, sales, marriage and relationships, and keynote speaking. So those are the 4 pillars of what we do.
Okay,
We
so
teach people. Go ahead.
So how would people get in contact with you?
Well, you can go to richardhellen.com. That's my website. So all the things I do is actually on my website. My books, everything we do is on that website. I'm big on Facebook. I'm not as big on Instagram as I should be, but you can still reach me at all social media outlets: LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, and you can reach out at richardhellen.com, or you can just email me, which is my name, Richard Hellen. My business is called Pathways at pathways.com. I'll definitely respond back to you.
Oh, wow. Is there anything else that you would like to share with the people before you go concerning leadership, that something is just burning on your heart?
If leadership is something that's important to you, my book's been out now about a couple months, right? It's called If You Lead, People Will Follow. And a lot of things I just talked about is actually in this book. So it's about a $17 investment. And watch this. Even if you don't buy my book, buy somebody's book on leadership. And it will revolutionize your life. So if you invest in you, it gives you the opportunity to invest in other people. So you want to make sure you're investing in you, whether it be podcasts, books. You just want to make sure that you're investing in you. If you do that, you have the opportunity to influence and impact other people.
That's right. And we ask that you go out and support Mr. Richard, and that you invest into yourself by grabbing one of his books. Another good book, we talked about John Maxwell.
Yeah.
The John Maxwell Leadership Bible. This is an awesome Bible that teaches a lot of key principles on leadership. I would advise everyone. You don't have to be a pastor. You don't have to be a minister. But this Bible will change your life, because the first person that you must lead is yourself. And you'll find a lot of tips in this Bible. You could also find it on Amazon. But make sure that you go get Mr. Richard book before you go get this John Maxwell Leadership Bible. It's a good one, though, and I would just advise everyone to go pick it up. But we want to thank you, Richard, for coming on here and sharing with the people. sharing with our community, sharing with our families, sharing with the body of Christ. We thank you for everything that you're doing. We pray blessings over your life. May everything you put your hands to prosper, and we're going to have you back. And next time we're going to make sure your wife is there so she can be able to share some of that good stuff she got also.
Yeah, she has some work to do, man. She's way behind on teaching stuff she's doing. So yeah, she had some work to do, man. But we appreciate what you guys are doing, man. We need more people like this. You know, you look on social media, there's a lot of stuff on there, but it's not a whole lot of stuff that's just really encouraging and uplifting. I was listening to somebody one day as I was scrolling through Instagram, and he closed out with this. He said, when someone visits your page, are they better when they leave? And so we need stuff like what you guys are doing so that it can actually impact people and give people tools they need to have a better marriage or to be better leaders. So I appreciate what you guys are doing. God bless you as well. We wish much continued success to you guys.
Hey,
Sid, what you got to say? You quiet, man. Tell me something before I leave. Andrew, tell me something, because you look like you got a whole lot on your mind.
For me, I'm like a sponge. I'm soaking it all in. I'm in a season where I want to be the most quietest in the room so I can take it all in and come up to the next level. Everything that you shared on tonight has just been blessing, and I just been soaking it up.
Hey, I got one thing to share with you guys before I leave. In about 2 weeks, I'm putting together a speaker series. Now, whenever I preach, watch this. Now, teaching and preaching are kind of two different things. You can do both. So if I'm in a teaching environment where people are taking notes, I might have 4 or 5 points that I'm actually trying to dispense. But if I'm standing in front of someone preaching, I don't have one note. And I want to teach people how to do that. So it's called, John Maxwell, the book said, everybody communicates, but very few connect. And so whenever I preach, I never use one note, right? And it's a powerful concept because I'm coming from my heart and not my head. So I never use one note. And whenever I preach, I only have 1 point. But you can listen to that message and remember for 30 years from now, because I only got 1 point I'm trying to get across. So as a speaker, when you're preaching or communicating, you have to ask yourself one question. Am I trying to impress or am I trying to impact? And when I speak, I want to impact people, not impress people. Now, if you happen to be impressed, that's great, but that's not my goal. My goal is to impact people so that information can actually change your life. So whenever I preach, I just have 1 point and I don't use one note.
Wow.
It is so powerful. But you can stand in front of people and speak, and it's coming from your heart, and you only have 1 point that you're trying to dispense.
Yeah.
And people can remember. I talked to a guy, I gave a message in Iraq in 2004, 2005. It was almost 15, 20 years ago. Somebody talked to me a couple days ago. They remember the message from 2004, 2005. They remember a message I gave on the Tabernacle Pattern in Iraq. And that let me know that that's where I need to be. So it's a powerful teaching tool. But it can be effective because I've gone to visit people. They have all these points. Nobody's going to remember all those points. They only going to remember your last point. So if you're only going to remember my last point, why not just give you 1 point? And so I'm going to do a teaching series on that here in the next 2 or 3 weeks. Man, I got to put it all together. I'm going to put it together. But it's just going to be pretty powerful, teaching people how to put a message together where you have 1 point, but you're going to impact people.
Please let us know and give us all the information so we can be a part of it, and then we can also share it with others.
Yeah.
But once again, we want to thank you for coming and sharing with the people. And it's just been a blessing, man. And we're just really grateful that we got to connect with you. And when the teacher is talking, we can't do nothing but listen.
Oh man, it goes both ways, brother.
Oh,
yeah,
man,
I appreciate you guys. I learned. As a matter of fact, I'm telling you what I took from you at the last time we actually had a chance to fellowship together. You said something that was so impactful. You said it's not the length of your marriage, but the strength of your marriage.
Good. It's true.
Yeah, I appreciate it. You remember saying that?
I remember saying that.
That was impactful, right? Because we get it backwards. I've been married. My parents were married for 40 years. They slept in separate rooms.
That's right.
So yes, you're exactly right. So that's stuck with me, man. So I appreciate you teaching.
Oh wow, that's awesome. That's very encouraging. The Bible says that iron sharpens iron.
Yeah.
So I thank God that He made it possible for us to meet each other, that we can grow from each other. But make sure you give us all the information so we can share it on our Facebook and get it out there.
Sounds good, man. You guys be blessed. Thank you so much for having me. We'll catch y'all next time.
We'll catch
All
you.
right.
Thank you,
God
Mr.
bless.
Richard.
Yes, sir.
You know I never forget. Through all the pain and the sweat, that you're not done with me yet. I got to keep pressing, got to keep pressing. Oh, you know I never